Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. I'm Jackie Tomes, and along with my husband and business partner David Wigram and my business partner but not husband Dominic Beechino, we're having open conversations about building a property business that creates cash flow but most importantly freedom. So it's the highs, lows and lessons in creating the holiday every 6 weeks lifestyle. Everything from big picture strategy and maximising your potential right down to the practical solutions. So today you're going to be joined by Dom and Dave, and they're going to be talking about creativity and peak productivity and how important really being able to harness this in your property business when it comes to being successful and of course enjoying the journey. So there's an amazing conversation coming up for you with these guys. So without further ado, here's Dom and Dave.
Hello, Dom. How are you?
Dave. Good to see you again in the sunshine. Not that I'm jealous or anything.
Oh, sorry about that. Top of a mountain in Spain at the moment. Really nice.
Awesome.
Really nice. And today we are going to talk about passion and creativity. Now, to put this in context of where we're coming from and how why we decided to talk about this today, it's one of our key triangles or one of our key areas, pillars of the property lifestyle mastery formula, as it were. And there's a key pillar, which is peak productivity. And within peak productivity, we have three different legs to that stool. And we've already been through two of them. The last one we did was health habits to make sure you are being super productive. And today's one, we see as one of the key legs of that stool is the creativity and passion. So just within that, this is all aimed at getting everyone out there, whoever's listening, to be as productive as, in their most amazing zone possible so they can achieve amazing things. So I guess I'd start off by saying, Dom, why don't you just explain a bit? What do we talk about when we talk about creativity? We talk about passion. What are we on about?
Yes, because a lot of people think, they're like, creativity. Yeah, no, I'm not really very creative. I work with spreadsheets, or I just do what I'm told, maybe in employment, or I'm doing what I'm told in property. But actually, creativity is what makes you human. Your brain is designed to recognize patterns. Like, for example, you're hearing my voice. My voice is saying words that you've already heard before, and I'm putting them together in a unique way in having this conversation. So I'm effectively creating sentences, phrases, things that hopefully make sense to people, and they're understanding it. So everyone is creative. Everyone is creative with the information that they learn. Now, some people are brilliant and, kind of visionaries, and they can create something from a blank page. You and I know that's not you or I, right?
That's not me.
But other people can absolutely do that. But everyone is creative from their own perspective, in their own way, whether it's looking at spreadsheets or garden design, whatever it might be. They're everyone has capacity to be creative, and that is their unique magic that they bring to the world, their ability to see things in their own unique way, and that's their creativity. And it's being aware of that, because that's what makes you unique, and harness and create power within you to deliver value to other people, right? So that's what I would say creativity is. And then there's passion, but I'll let you answer that one. How does
I might just add one more thing into creativity, because I think everything you said is obviously spot on, but just another angle on that is the fact that literally every aspect of life is a problem to be solved. From the moment we're born to the moment we die, we are literally just approaching one problem after another, and our job is to work out a solution to that, whether that's learning how to speak, learning how to walk, learning how to do stuff, or it could just be, how do you deal with this problem, how do you deal with that tenant, how are you going to build your business? It's always a how, and I'm a big how guy. Yes. But in essence, every how is a problem, and your job as the human in this process is, how are you going to solve that problem? Now, in order to go from understanding the problem to solving that problem, you have to create a solution. So I feel like creativity, everyone has a different approach to it, but everyone has a different flow within it as well. I think we'll get onto that later. But really, we are just constantly creating, because we're constantly creating solutions, everything. And the quicker and better you can create those solutions to your problems, the quicker and better you can evolve and grow. And particularly in business, the quicker your business will grow, the easier it will be for you. So getting as creative as possible is literally, that's it. It's the answer to all life's problems.
Exactly. It's and that links to having a growth mindset, doesn't it, as well? Because we want to think in a way that is going to create gain. And in fact, thinking is to gain. Even if you're thinking in a fixed mindset sort of way, that's to keep you safe. There's a gain there. So it goes back to the most fundamental thing, which is to be human is to create, is to think, which is to gain in life. So it goes back to the very, very foundation of being a human, basically, is creativity. So that's creativity. What about passion then? How does that fit in? Where does it fit in with it?
So for me, creativity is the use of the brain and the intuition to come up with a solution. Passion is the motivator. It's the motor, the drive that gets you to wanting to solve that problem. It's the thing that gives you the energy to be able to get somewhere. And I feel like passion is that thing that we all have. And we always talk about passion as if you either have it or you don't.
Yes.
You have it or you don't. But it's so not true. You have multi-million various shades of passion in everything you do. Right. The question is, how much passion have you got, and how much can you bring to the problems at hand, and how much are you able to bring to, for example, your business growth or your current challenges in life, so that you've got more drive, more motivator, more energy to get yourself through those challenges. And I always think about it as kind of like the passion is the thing that's going to bring the hot air to lift you off the ground. So if you're trying to get somewhere, and if we were 100 years ago and trying to get somewhere, the quick, easiest way to get a long distance might have been a hot air balloon. And, the creation of the hot air balloon, that's you solving the problem. You've got a creation task, but then to get the hot air balloon off the ground, to be able to reach your destination, you've got to have the ignition, the fuel, the fire that creates the hot air. And that is our passion. That's our burning desire to achieve an result. And the problem is, if you run out of passion in trying to achieve a destination, so you start out thinking, I want to get from here to Turkey in my hot air balloon, or in real life, I want to build my business to have a passive income. And you start out and you get your passion going, and you built your hot air balloon, which is your business in this metaphor, and you get yourself lifted off the ground with your hot air, your passion, and you're going up and up. And every time you need to keep going, you have to put a bit more blast of passion in there, a little blast of energy. Now, that energy does come from your motivations. If you run out of motivation, you run out of passion for it, your hot air balloon starts heading down towards the ground. And this is where so many people, they don't get this part solved, and they don't have clarity on literally what is driving them, what is pushing them in their business, in their life. You run out of that fuel because you're not clear on it. Your hot air balloon hits the ground and you stop. And that's called burnout. That's called the moment of everything stops, everything falls apart, you're not moving forwards anymore, and you can't even see where you're heading anymore because you're not up in the air, and that's called burnout. So our job is to say, right, we want to get to our destination. We need to identify what is the passion, what is the motivator, what's the driver that's going to get us there, so that as we're on our journey, how can we keep ourselves going?
Yes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Now, two things spring to mind here. Some people just go, yeah, but I'm just not passionate about property in particular, because obviously a property audience in particular here. And I get that. There's a lot of people who go, you know what, I'm really not passionate about property, but what I am passionate about is what property does for me. And this is the thing. Passion isn't one thing. It can be, as you mentioned, a multitude of different things. And often it's the stepping stones of, say, property that gets you to something else that you are passionate about. That you really love to do, even when it's difficult. I think that's the definition of passion, by the way, is something you love to do, even when it's difficult. And you would do it even if you won the lottery and had £50 million and you didn't have to work ever again. You'd still be going down that road because you may really enjoy the direction. And that's what passion is. It's a direction to go in, and all the discoveries that you make along the way. So for the listeners, know that passion is not one thing. It's the discovery of that particular direction and that continued discovery down that road. But you mentioned burnout, and burnout is really interesting because I believe, similar to effectively depression as well, is that it's actually guidance. It's internal guidance that causes us to burn out, to feel depressed, because we're not actually doing or being the person that we are meant to be on this planet. I think we all have something unique that our soul is kind of wanting us to get towards, and we get nudges and things happen that allow us to sort of get onto the right road. And when you're on the right road, and you just love what you're doing every day, because you really feel that you're growing and you're contributing, and you love the people that you're surrounded with, and it's just so rewarding what you do each day. That's when you've kind of discovered your passion. But it doesn't mean it's going to remain there the whole time. It will evolve, because we are humans. We evolve, we grow, we discover new things, and we find nuances and niches within that general area, whether it's property, whether it's education. But we get better and better in a particular area, and that's what we find as our passion. Yeah. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, I was
just thinking there, Dom. You've basically outlined it. You're right. Okay, I'm going to just put one thing out there. I am not passionate about property. That is 100% me. You have got me down to a T, and I hope I am like many people listening to this. I think of all the clients we work with, we've worked with hundreds of clients in the property space. I think of all of them, I'd guess maybe 2 to 5% are actually passionate about property. That's the thing that drives them. Now, I can bring them to mind. I'm like, oh yeah, that person. When they spoke about it, a fire lit in their eyes. You can hear it in their voice in a way that it's the thing they're talking about is the property. It's the bricks and mortar. It's the tangible thing that they love. They love the buying of it. They love the doing up of it. And that's what drives them. That is, and that's amazing. And I think that's brilliant. And that, you know what? They've got an amazing drive to be in property. Brilliant. I'm not that person. And yet, to give everyone some faith, we've managed to make a very big business, and I've been very happy along the way. Yes. And the challenges we've faced, and the depression, as it were, that I've been through, is because, like you say, Dom, I haven't been on the right track for me. But that didn't mean getting rid of the property. Right. It meant becoming more aware and going through that whole mindset piece of our property lifestyle mastery blueprint, becoming more and more aware of myself and what my passions are, what drives me, so that I could identify the things that I was doing, that I was loving, and that were helpful and driving me, and identify the things that were really draining me, so I could shift them out and get team to support and kind of help in those areas. And actually that's there's a whole massive bigger piece about team. I think we're going to do another podcast, Jackie and I, about team. But really our learning of when we look at the business owners we work with and look at ourselves, there is a period of time where you are driven and motivated, and you have enough energy from that initial drive to do stuff you don't want to do that isn't in your flow. Right. And then there comes a point for everyone where if you're not in your flow and it's not your passion, and it's not the thing that drives you, you will burn out on it and you will run out of energy. But that's therefore gives you a finite period of time. And it's different for everyone. Some people, this will be 6 months, some it will be 6 years. But there's a finite period of time that is on average, probably 18 months to 2 years, that you will be able to drive something you're not truly passionate about and get it to a point at which hopefully you can pass it over to someone before it starts draining you properly and you get run out of energy and fuel on it. But I'm not passionate about property. That's what I wanted to say. And I am, and yet still growing the property business and still enjoying my role in it. And it forces me to do a lot of self-reflection on what I am actually passionate about. It's been a really tough one for me because I came from a music background. Right. I could happily say I was passionate about music. And I can tell you why, because I knew it was passion. I always explained it in this way. It was passion, not love. Right. I did love music when I got into it, but in the end, the difference between passion and love for me was that the passion was like I could keep going back to it no matter how hard it got. No matter how bad it got, there was something that kept driving me back to it. Like it's a tough career being a musician. I was in a particularly tough industry, and there was always that underlying motor, that generator. Just I'd get it could be really, really, really hard. I'd get some really bad criticism, some awful feedback, and it didn't destroy me. It just put me down, and then that passion would pick me back up again and take me towards it. And I was passionate enough about it that I just keep going back to it. But I tell you what, in those hardest of times, I could definitely have said, I don't love this. I don't love this. I don't love the people I'm working with. I don't love my instrument. I don't love it at all. But I knew that passion was there. And then when I moved to property, I didn't have music anymore. So it was like being put out into no man's land. And I had my 2 or 3 years of motivated drive for, that you can kind of bring in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to work it out. And a lot of people, I mean, I'm known as Detail Dave. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people would say to me, oh, well, Dave, aren't you passionate about spreadsheets? Oh, God, what the hell are you on? Who's passionate? Of course I'm not passionate about spreadsheets. Excel, God, that is no way. It is not spreadsheets. I mean, I hate spreadsheets just as much as the next person for like the fact that they're just this thing on a screen that you have to look at. But what I am passionate about, and what's taken a lot of searching to get to, is that I've got this huge passion about supporting others and improving things and finding ways to make things better, and looking for, when you look at, the reason I like a spreadsheet is because that is the basis of taking a load of what other people would see as chaos or randomness, just a load of numbers, a load of data, and then siphoning through it till you get to the point where you actually, it's clear to you. It's like you're making a picture go from blurry to clarity, and you just get to, and you something like you see it, and it opens up, and then that's it. You now know how to solve the problem. And I've got a unique skill in that area. That's why I end up on spreadsheets all the time, because I've got a unique skill in that area with regards to numbers, but also other things. That's what I bring to our business, is looking at problems, restructuring it, making clarity of all that nonsensical data that you end up having, and then bringing it to a clear, structured end result that you can then take action of. It becomes your launch pad. And I am very passionate about doing that, and particularly doing that in support of others.
Right. Yes. Makes perfect sense. And it makes me think that, it goes back to the fundamentals, which is that we, in the universe, things go from chaos to order. And that's exactly what you've done. Yeah. From random, all sorts of information to, okay, these are the answers. This is what I was looking for. From chaos to order. And I think that's everyone's way of being, is actually the more clear we are about what it is that we're aiming for, the more we start to enjoy it. And some people, they're born, and from a very early age, they know they want to be a doctor, for example, or that, they want to get into a certain thing. And those people, fantastic, good for them. They've always driven down that road, and they know what they want. Other people, they're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s even, and they're still not kind of going, well, I haven't found a passion. I don't know what I want. And here's the thing. Passion isn't one thing. It's multiple things, as you mentioned at the beginning. And it changes, just like it was music before, and then it was kind of getting into the property side, and then now it's helping others. And we evolve, and passion doesn't have to stay the same. I think we can, and in fact, it makes me think of something called human design. I don't know if you, Jackie, have heard about this, but we have certain tendencies depending on who we are and when we were born, and these things. I mean, by all means, Google it, human design, and it looks at all the different ways all the different energies that affected us when we were born, and that will influence how you approach things, and whether you stick with stuff or whether you have to trial it and then give it up, or whether you stick with stuff and it always works for you, all these different things. So it's just interesting to know that not everyone's going to go down the same road, of course, and experience things in the same way, and it's okay if you haven't ever yet found your passion. Just enjoy all the different things you are doing. Remember to be present in this moment, and know that everything's okay, and it's all trying to help you become and get clear about who you are meant to be on this planet. That's what I'm getting.
Just before we go on to the next thing I want to talk about, Dom, you've given us such a beautiful description of all of that, and it's so true. Like I said at the beginning, it's varying shades. I definitely have a different type of passion about what I do now than I did about music. It's a very different style, different flavor of passion. But I could say in many ways, I know that deep down there's just as much passion as there was for music in certain aspects of what I do. And but it's a different, but some things there's lower levels of passion, but there's still, it's there. So I'd love to know from you, Dom, what's your driver? What is your passion?
My passion, very simply, I mean, I'm incredibly fortunate, I feel, because I've kind of almost always known it, which is why I don't relate to people who've got imposter syndrome. I really struggle with that one. But anyway, I'm incredibly lucky. For basically, I left university, and then I picked up, my mum recommended a book to me called The Book of Secrets by Deepak Chopra. It's quite old now. It's not necessarily as good as some of the others he's written. But I kind of realized there on the train up to Lancaster University, when I was reading that book, it's like, oh my goodness, this is it. This is what I absolutely love to do. It's learning and sharing that information with other people to help them become more of who they want to be. And that is the question. And I think this is actually a good insight for people listening. What is the question that you love to repeatedly answer every day? Because the question that drives me is, how can I help this person become more, get better at being them? And that has led me down all sorts of different roads around health and fitness and spirituality and success and psychology and habits and you name it, anything and everything that I've enjoyed learning about, which then I can use to help them move forward, whether it's strategy on a page or meditation or supplements in the morning, whatever it might be. It's like, how do I optimize this person? And actually, by helping them, I'm by default helping myself too, right? I'm discovering myself, using myself as an experimenter first, and then I'm sharing what's worked for me and what's worked for other people with them, so that they can be empowered to do the same effectively. Because I think this is an ecosystem, this planet. People help people, and the more we help others, the more we grow. There's something magical that happens when two people get together and are aiming to become more as a result of being and working together, whether it's serving customers or life partner or just meeting a stranger in the street, but you're helping them out in some way. I think magic happens there. And so that's the question that drives me. What would you say drives you?
Oh, well, I think I kind of said it earlier. It's really about serving people within kind of solving that problem. But actually, I think maybe to give a bit more clarity about it, it comes, for me, it's funny because obviously we're both now working with people. You come from a coaching background, and I think that really comes out. You've obviously chosen this route of coaching, business coaching as your route, because it's very much bringing the best out of people, and coaching is the way to do that. And obviously you teach them and help them, but I do feel your skills, your massive skills, come in when you start. It's about bringing it out of them. Yes. Whereas I'm less of a good coach. I'm more of a teacher. I'm more of a teller. I've been a teacher all my life, and that's been, so therefore my way of helping people is much more about showing a path, giving them the clarity, showing the clarity of what's required, so they can take the right action, take the launch from there. So there's a certain this feeling of just like bringing clarity to someone, so that they transform from being confused, unsure, feeling maybe more of the fear elements of just like it's not sure what to do, to empowered, to feeling like they know exactly what they should be doing and just flying off into a new direction. So it's creating that transformation, but at a point I do it through looking, teaching them and just kind of giving them clarity and new perspective, so that they can shift and they get a paradigm shift into a new direction, a new velocity. So that's where I think, if I describe it more clearly, that's where I differ from you. I think we are doing the same job in different ways.
Exactly.
In that respect.
I was going to say, coaching is teaching, but it's just a different format.
Exactly.
And both entirely valid and both essential and good. So coaching is, as you say, it's kind of a little bit more empowering, because the one thing about teaching is like, oh, I've got to get this information, it's outside of me, but actually you're part of the universe too, and actually everything is within you, as we've both been reading the holographic universe. Everything is present in anyone. Actually, it's just about helping them recognize it. So anyway,
I'd say, and the nice thing about, because what I find is that's where that self-awareness piece came in, because I to try and work it all out, I was saying, how does this fit? How does this fit in my property business? And actually, where I am now, all the same magic comes when you're dealing with team members and you're trying to get them to evolve and trying to get them into their best place and trying to give them the clarity, or which, because we've got 12, 13 team at the moment. So it's just trying to get them into a place where they feel great and teach them what they need to change, or dealing with it. I had an amazing conversation with some of our investors where I could see they were confused or unsure about what they wanted out of life or out of the money that they had available, and having those conversations, I literally could be on the phone for 2 hours and not even know it's gone by. That's when you're passionate. I'm on a phone call to an investor talking about basically their life and how and the struggles and challenges and like how they can make better of it, and and that's amazing, because then I have the power through our business to then enact that change with them and say, actually, if we did this, this, and this, you would have a better life because of it. And
Yeah.
that's just wonderful, because then you bring that passion into the service you give to everyone. And it's amazing. And we brought that into our tenants in terms of just trying to provide better accommodation, and it suddenly brings that passion just into I'm not passionate about refurbs, I'm not passionate about builders, I'm not passionate about the transformation, but I am passionate about a tenant moving in and having a better life than the previous one, and walking in with that lovely feeling of like, oh wow, what can I do in this space, and how could I change my life? So there is something there. And I think most people could find something there in property, because there's so many different aspects to it.
Yeah.
And but what I really want to get into, because I'm aware of time, Dom, I want to get on to just kind of more of the what does this mean for our businesses, right? If you can find your creativity and you can find your passion and you can really access it and use it to drive you, like, what does this mean? What do you reckon it means for people? What do you see in people when it happens?
What I see is that, as you mentioned before, people become empowered. They suddenly discover a newfound energy which they didn't have before. They have more clarity, and they realize and keep refining who they are becoming and what they are brilliant at, and where they bring the most value to their business and to their customers, whether it's tenants or investors or anyone else. So it's kind of almost a necessary path. I think people who stop are basically sort of just resigning themselves to live an average life, and that's not a natural human state. The natural human state is to wanting to grow and learn and become more. And so even if you were to stop, I think you would be knocked occasionally just to remind you that actually the purpose of life is to evolve and grow and learn and become more, because consciousness, your thinking and everything comes through you, and it wants to experience the world, and it doesn't mind whether you experience the worst shit, excuse my French, and have an awful life and become a drug addict or other things, or whether you experience the best, what we might call the best of life, with wealth and well-being and everything else. Consciousness will experience everything, but on the whole, it's moving forward. It's like that 51%. It's moving forward. I would say it's almost speeding up in terms of its self-awareness and growing. So what I see in people, is that they become happier, they become more productive, they grow bigger businesses, they help more people, and as a result, it's an upward spiral of success and enjoyment and contribution, which is ultimately what is moving. What we help people.
So true.
Towards. Yeah.
The upward spiral. I see that more and more. You solve a few of these things and everything else clicks into place because of it, which is amazing. Decision-making changes.
Yes.
If someone can find their passion where they didn't have it before, they suddenly start making slightly nuanced changes to how they decide things, which just shifts things in a slightly new direction. Same business, same team, maybe the same team, maybe the same everything, apart from something slightly different, and suddenly it's like unlocking them to a new phase, a new level up, as it were, and they can spiral up to the next level. And I just think, when I think about these things, I always think about Stephen Kotler's book, what's it called, the Impossible, doing the impossible. The Art of Impossible. Is it on your bookshelf behind you? I think it might be.
Yeah.
There it is. Art of the Impossible, because Stephen Kotler's amazing for talking about performance and peak performance and athletes and everyone around the world, how they're achieving it. And that book very clearly lays out a very nice approach or structure to how people achieve peak performance. And part of that is he talks about the motivation. And the end result of having that passion and motivation combined with a few other things like a creative environment and constant learning, he gets to an end result that you get into a state of flow. And this is where I think the true magic happens. And we mentioned this briefly on the health habits one, but really flow is like an incredible superpower that we all have, but just tend to ignore. It's like it's the biggest business under-mentioned business tool that businesses aren't using. Like literally the McKinsey investigations into it, reports do show that it makes you, if you can get into a true state of flow, you become 500% more productive. If you and your workforce can be 500% more productive, that is literally, it beats anything else. Any other tool, technique, thing you're using, this is better. So flow is the key in many ways to success. And there's so many different reasons why. I mean, that book's amazing. It kind of lays out the when you get into a state of flow, there are 6 different neurochemicals coming into the system that are all the ones to do with happiness and health and well-being and energizing your creativity, and they're all related to kind of loving life and addiction to life, as it were, and also to do with your social interactions. They're the same kind of chemicals that come in with your love hormones and how you interact with other people, which basically means you turn into a creation learning machine. You actually become 230% more capable at learning than you are when you're not in flow. So you can just take more information in and you can understand it better. You also get into a state where you're able to make connections between disparate bits of information in your brain. So you might have new information coming in, you have old information in the brain filed there, stored away, that is quite hard to access. And when you're in flow, the brain automatically can find those connections, and instead of it being kind of a slow process to get there, it will just fire them into place. And that's when you have those amazing aha moments, like when you just suddenly go, oh my God, I didn't believe, I can't, it makes sense now. Yeah. Those moments come when you're in flow, because actually that moment is pretty much stemmed from going from a beta, an alpha brainwave. So if we're cognitively in a beta brainwave, when we're standardly, what we're doing now, talking, we're in a beta brainwave. Beta brainwave is your standard cognitive function, making sense of the world, learning, consciously paying attention to things. When we move down from beta, we go into alpha. Alpha is the brainwave when you're daydreaming, when you start to just kind of drift away and start thinking about something in your own head. That's alpha. That's your daydream state. It's actually a really powerful state to be in, because that's when you start to come into your creative solutions. You start to imagine things. You start to come up and be empowered to come up with stuff. And below alpha, you go into theta. Theta is the dream state. It's when you're actually asleep. You're in theta. Now, the magic of flow is that you are in conscious state, but you've pulled your brainwave down into this daydream and actually into the dream brainwave state. Your brain, your automatic functions are happening. The body is just driving you, and that's why time disappears, and you can suddenly spend 2 hours on a phone call and not realize it's gone, because you're not aware of time anymore. The part of your brain that deals with time is the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is shut down in flow. You've gotten rid of it. Wow. So therefore you can no longer notice time. That's why those tasks when you're in flow just fly by. And so you've now got no awareness of time. You're not really aware of your surroundings. That's the same part of your brain that makes you aware of surroundings. And equally, you're not, shut out the same part of your brain that creates nagging doubts, the part of brain that's self-talk, right? So where you might suddenly start having doubts or fears or worries, that part of your brain's shut off as well, which means you're now just in a state where anything can happen. And magically, in that theta brainwave, you're coupled to a thing called gamma brainwave. And the gamma brainwave state is the fastest brainwave state. It's much higher level, but you can only access it through theta. And that gamma is when you go into, it's when you suddenly have epiphanies. It's the epiphany. It's when the brain has two sets of information. It needs to craft a neurological pathway. In gamma, it is forged immediately instead of it having to be made practiced and put over and over again. The brain actually just forges it and puts it cast iron in place, just because you've gone into gamma. And that's when you make these connections, these amazing connections. You can problem solve, you're learning things quicker. The whole thing is flowing easily. And that's the whole thing of flow. And it's just like, it's magic. It's a superpower. Sorry for that rant, Tom. I was just
it wasn't a rant. Dave, I was making notes. I was like, this is amazing. I've got to remember this. I'm not going to rely on my memory. I'm going to write it down this time. So that's just magic to hear that. So, but I know some people go, well, yeah, but how do I know when I'm in flow? And I guess the trick is, well, you're not aware of it because there's no time. You're as you mentioned, the brain kind of, you're not chatting to yourself. You're not sort of thinking. You're just completely present in the moment, no time, but you're there, and it's magic is happening. And you know what? A lot of people actually get that when they're on holiday, when they are traveling. Why? Because they don't know what's going to happen. So they're entirely present in this moment. And so they're just open and present. And that's why they love traveling, is because actually that's when they're in a flow state. They're in a present. They're kind of just experiencing everything that's going on around them. It's all new, rather than going, I expect this, I know that, all these, the normal chatter of your mind which goes on. So that's, whenever I'm doing a values discovery session with someone, they often say travel, and I say, well, okay, what does travel mean? Anyway, I know that the science behind it basically is because they get into flow when they're
while traveling.
Yeah,
that is incredible, Dom, because Jackie and I were literally in our motorhome this morning. We've started up the engine this morning to drive somewhere, and it's just like half hour, 45-minute drive, and Jackie was like, I know it was just like, I don't know why, but it doesn't matter what time of day it is. When I get into this motorhome and turn on the engine and start going somewhere, I just feel better, just feel relaxed. And I think what you've just described is the reason. And I hadn't made that connection, that we love it. We've done a full day's work, we're totally worn out, and we're like, let's move to the next location. And we get everything set up, get in those seats, and we feel great. And like last night, and you're driving, you might have the sunset, and the time disappears. It's like a 45-minute drive is nothing to us. An hour's drive is nothing to us, because we're going to somewhere we've never been before. We're excited to get there just to see what the next place is like. And it energizes us when we get there. We feel better, like the day is less heavy on us. I hadn't realized that was because of flow.
Yeah, there we go. I love it. The conversations we have, and for the listeners too, it's all learning for all of us all the time. So that's wonderful. Excellent.
Amazing. So good. I think, we'll do another episode at some point about flow specifically, I think, because it's definitely a place to explore more. But to finish off this one, passion, definitely something to become aware of. And what I would say is spend the time to work out something. It doesn't have to be something obvious, but just have a think, spend the time to work out, and it will pay dividends 100%. And it will improve everything.
Yeah. Make a list, because you'll be passionate about spending time with your family, but it might not be full time with your family, right? For me, it's a couple of hours a day. So it's make a list of all the things that you enjoy, and know that the more you go down the road of any particular one, the more actually you'll fall in love with it and actually find more passion as a result of doing more of it often. And if you don't, then obviously it's not a passion. So there's one. Right. And then creativity, know that you're always being creative, and it's just finding your own unique way to bring your personality and your way of thinking and being to any situation or work environment.
Well, I was sitting in the background listening to those guys record that episode, and I loved listening to that. So I hope it got you thinking in a different way about how you can get more out of not just your business, but also your life too. So, talking of freedom, we are rapidly approaching our Living the Property Dream event, which is held on the 9th of November in central London, 9 till 6 p.m. And it's all about finding the freedom formula. So if you're enjoying listening to us on the podcast and you want to come and spend a whole day just immersing yourself in how you create not just financial freedom, but also time and also emotional freedom, then check us out, because this is going to be a one-off opportunity. We're doing it to celebrate 10 years in property, and we've got at the time of recording this outro, there are a few spaces still left. So if you want to come and join us, head on over to property-strategy.com/LPD. It's going to be an amazing day, and we're looking forward to seeing many of you there. So for now, until next week, when it'll be myself and Dave again, and we are talking about how to create consistent cash flow in your property business. We're going deep into the profit and loss account and all of that cash flow stuff that really matters to your bank account each month. So we'll see you, or be tuning in to you wherever you are next week. And until then, have an amazing week.